Tokenize, let's innovate, bringing answers to the digital state. From finance to games, we're redefining, connecting the dots. The future is shining.
Awesome. Give it up. Give it up. What a great job. Woo! Give it up for Michael and Joyce. Thanks, everyone, for coming for the last show, the last presentation of the day. You've all been troopers. All right, let's get going. Why don't we start with introductions? We'll start right at the end.
Hi, I'm Rex Wong, and I'm CEO of HolloAI. And I've actually, my history with Michael's been my publicist for 29 years. I've known him longer than I've been married, which is, he's my publicity husband. But yeah, and we've had seven startups that we went through, including a company called Applied Semantics. We created AdSense and sold that to Google. That was like 2003. We started that in 97. And then a company called Dave TV, which was an online video platform. And then Quello, which was a Netflix of concerts. And here we are now. And I like to say that when we created AdSense, and it was originally a search engine, a meaning-based search engine, we basically built what will be now known as a very, very small language model back in 1997. But it was a contextual semantic search engine based on the science of the lexicology of words, right? Of how words relate to other words. And that's kind of what a language model is today.
Free language.
So we just didn't call it that. So, but that's my background.
Awesome. Syed.
So thanks again, Michael. And I know we're in between. We're in a very dangerous spot here because we're right before dinner, and I know everyone is starving. So we'll try to make this as productive as possible. My background, I come from the world of the capital markets as well as data and analytics. Been in it for about 2.5 decades now. Currently, I am the founder and CEO of SHIZA, which stands for Shared Human Intellect Zonal Agents. Michael happens to be a very, very big supporter and a very early investor into us. And these events have been absolutely phenomenal. What we do essentially is very, very relevant to this topic at hand, which is jobs. And what will LLMs do to jobs? We tend to think that LLMs are only the beginning. There's going to be post-transformer-based architecture models that are going to be coming in as well. In a nutshell, our thesis is that jobs are going to be a thing of the past. They're going to be gone. So we're going to start to really, really shift. And there needs to be a paradigm shift that needs to happen in terms of our thinking. And we need to start focusing away from being labor-driven and start really thinking about post-labor economics. Where does the world go from there? Which is essentially the thesis for SHIZA, what it is, why we started that, which is post-agentic AI. What does a post-agentic world look like? And that's what we're solving for. So glad to be on this panel and looking forward to a very fun and fruitful conversation.
Hi, I'm Marlon Williams. I've been a software developer. I actually started coding in 1999, but didn't get my first official job until 2001 as a developer, and I've been coding ever since. Everything from the intersection of health information technology to telecommunications and the contact center space to, of course, layer one blockchains. I co-founded the Telos blockchain along with Douglas Horn, and built BSC Starter, which was the number one launchpad in all of crypto in 2021 by ROI. Open sourced the code, and we saw a lot of launchpads created ever since. So I'd like to say that my code exists in a ton of the launchpads in the crypto space today. And now I'm embarking on the journey of automating digital finance for the average user. I do think that we just being a sort of like late 90s .com developer, I've had the pleasure of witnessing sort of the different trajectory that technology has gone through over the years. Everything from command line interfaces to graphical interfaces to web-based applications and mobile apps, APIs, and I think the agentic web is that next evolution of how we interact with technology, and we're just making sure that we're at the forefront of what that means for crypto and the average user with AIQuant.fun. Thank you.
Awesome. And I'm your moderator, Dele Atanda. I run a company called Metaproof. We work at the intersection of agentic AI, crypto agentic AI and data. I've been a data sovereignty advocate for a long while. We set up an NGO called the Internet Foundation back in 2013, first organization calling for universal declaration of digital rights as an extension of human rights, and created the first self-sovereign personal AI framework, metaMe, back a while ago. So we're going to get into all the detail about all of this. Is obviously very topical now. And I really like where you came from there in the sense, because I think there's a lot of conversation about AI and there's a lot of conversation about what AI is doing. But I think we really need to look at it specifically from a crypto AI perspective. And before we get to agentic AI, let's look at it from the perspective of LLMs. So maybe to start with, and Syed, you very radically declared your position on this. Effectively, the jobs are gone. But let's talk about what that means in a crypto agentic sense and start from an LLM perspective before we get to agents and see what you guys think about that. Whoever wants to go first.
Sure, I can kick things off. And the way that I like to explain, so even like when we're building the solution, one of the first sort of cynical questions that gets asked is why Web3, why crypto? If you guys are actually building an AI specific solution, is it one of those things where it's like, hey, let me latch on to the next big thing in the hype cycle that's happening in the markets? And before it was crypto, and now AI is the new crypto. And there's certainly truth to that cynicism. And what I like to say to people is that, look, there was another criticism that in the crypto world that people used to have of us, which is, you guys are a solution looking for a problem, right? And my response to that now is, yeah, you're right. And AI is that problem.
I agree with you on that. Hey, Ken, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that so where we're kind of looking at AI is in the sovereign identity, because we have a twin platform. So we can create a twin in about a minute, taking a selfie, recording yourself, and basically you have a twin of yourself. We're actually getting ready to launch the consumer app this month. And one of the problems that we encountered, so I also have a different company that we manage a lot of actors, and the SAG strike was all about the actors. They were really scared of AI, and especially our own actors saying, oh man, you're the devil, you're doing this AI, you're going to replace us. And what we did was we created a system where when they created it, it was ethical. They basically have the KYC, and we have built a registry, a blockchain registry that they register it. And once that's there, that's kind of a single source of truth. And every generation that we create, we basically log that onto the registry, right? So, and we watermark it, we fingerprint all the generations. And so therefore we can create this mechanism where you can create, for example, smart contracts. Like, let's say an idea of a lot of creators and influencers. So let's say somebody hires one of these influencers, but they want the AI twin of the influencer to create social posts, let's say on YouTube, right? So how do you track that? Right. And so because we are able to fingerprint it, we're also we've already verified who that person is, and we can track it. So if you say, okay, I'm going to pay you $10 per 1,000 views and you get 1 million views, we can see exactly what that number is. And with a smart contract, we can basically track it and enforce that, whatever they're charging. And so we've been working with SAG, which has an AI day rate now, right? And they can basically charge and be paid, or they can set their own rates if they're kind of a bigger thing. And so that's kind of what we've been delving into, is the sovereign identity. And even if the actor doesn't want to be AI, we say, well, you should register it, because now that's the proof that that's your identity. And then we can go out there and scan all the online and social platforms. And because we can see, does it have a fingerprint or not? And as long as you use this as your single source of truth, then you know that everything that doesn't have that fingerprint and that watermark is not generated by your official AI, right?
That's a great point. So, I mean, your key value proposition, traceability, verifiability, which
Provenance.
provenance,
Yes.
you know, kind of different perspectives on the same problem effectively that blockchain specifically can address with AI. And what industries are you seeing that being particularly relevant for, Kelvin?
Well, you know, I think technology has a very interesting way to sort of meet us where we are in terms of, you know, just resources that are available, the innovation that's happening within that era. Meaning, you know, when command line was the main interface to interact with applications, I mean, we had physical limitations in devices, in hardware, in software, and that was the best we could do at that time. You sort of like move forward, and the same concept holds true as Moore's law continued to prove that, you know, we would excel in computing resources every couple of years. That brought us a lot more capability within software, so we could create, you know, software that was heavier, but also leveraged the computing power that was available to us. And it's no different today with AI agents. This is the moment where LLMs and the agentic web could become possible. You know, the proliferation of just hardware resources with the NVIDIA GPU and now TPU chips coming out that sort of ushered in this new era. This is the time for us to redefine what it's like to interact with software. And so naturally, the crypto and blockchain space has to be a beneficiary of that. As a matter of fact, I think this new age of the agentic web is what's going to usher in more mass adoption. We have the regulatory support. Now we have no excuses but to build these amazing interactions, these amazing interfaces, amazing ideas for the blockchain and crypto community. So that's the way I see it. I think this is the right time to be building applications on blockchain, and crypto and AI is literally just a perfect match because it solves wallet problems. I mean, how many of you have had to fight with MetaMask? You could barely interact with a mobile application because it needs to launch in MetaMask as a separate. The UX is completely horrible, and that's where I see the agentic functionality that we have today coming in and sort of helping us address those issues.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I hear you completely, and I feel like crypto blockchain since inception, right, has always had to have this fight about use case, you know, problem looking for a solution. And I feel like actually with agentic AI, that is over. You don't actually have to argue anymore. It's kind of a natural progression. Agents and, you know, provenance and traceability and auditability is an immediate benefit that blockchain can bring to AI. But when it comes to agency, by definition, you need decentralized systems. Agents need decentralization to have agency. That's what agency means, right? So it's like we don't have to fight the fight about whether agentic AI will become crypto or not. It's somewhat inevitable. But I do want to come back to industries because, you know, before generative AI really showed up, there was a lot of talk about AI and how it would come and jobs that were being put at threat. And it was like, the humanities are safe. The creative industries are safe. You don't have to worry about that. If you're in these automated roles that require repetition, that's where the threat is. And then everything got completely upended with generative AI. So where do you see, and let's kind of stay agentic now in that sense, since we can accept that there's a vector there that's ultimately decentralized. So where do you see the threat vector for jobs in terms of agentic AI specifically?
Across the board. It's going to start off with like some of the most, I think it was earlier this week, the CEO of Anthropic, Dale, he he just came out and he spoke about the real dangers, and the words that he chose to use were there's going to be a white collar bloodbath that's going to be coming because of these agentic AI based solutions. Now, the caveat here is that what we're talking about, I'm not saying that this is happening today, right? So for anyone to say, oh, okay, we heard this one before, right? We heard these things before, but we haven't seen it at the pace that we're seeing it right now. 3 weeks ago, Microsoft laid off 6,000 people. Okay. You had Facebook just let go of, I believe it was five or between 5 and 15% of their workforce, right? These things are happening, and the kinds of positions that Microsoft is not really working on, low level things, right? It's very high level. The engineers are very high paid engineers. Facebook, same thing, right? So we have to really start taking this thing seriously. Now, what's the solution, right? The solution means there needs to be a fundamental paradigm shift in the way that we think. The old models are not going to work because this is not a problem of the old, right? So we're not talking about disruption. People love to use the word disruption. Oh, you guys are disruptors. Bullshit. I don't even like using that word disruption. You know why? The reason I don't like using that word disruption is because it's too soft of a term for what's coming. I like to use the word destruction. That's what's coming, right? Destruction is coming across the board, but destruction, remember, is also the catalyst behind creation. So these things are going to cause us we have to fundamentally rethink the way. So not only jobs, right, but even things we were talking about music and art and artists, right? Even things like that we've typically thought about, right? And if IP, copyright, trademarks, right? For me, these are things that are going to go the way of the dinosaurs, just like how jobs are going to go as well. And the opportunities that it presents for us is to come up with novel concepts on novel infrastructure, and that infrastructure is the Web3 rails that we can build upon. So all these things that we've been talking about, right? Transparency, accountability, microtransactions, right? These are the things that these agentic solutions are going to be doing. We're going to shift from being a labor-driven society to this agentic human experience driven society. So the ability to be able to own that human experience, to be able to monetize on that human experience, are some of the fundamental principles that we've never thought about before because this problem never existed. Now it does. We're the ones that are over here that have to figure out that solution for it.
Ken, I see you want to jump in there, and I'd love to hear, with all your experience with creatives, particularly, and twins, where you see that going.
Yeah, and Twins Creative is just one of the industries that we touch. We're actually making a lot of headway right now in travel and hospitality. In fact, if you were on the conference floor, we had 2 robots on the floor with our AI twin. One was giving you a guide of the conference, right? Partner Robotics there, and they do the robots. We were the twin. The second one was for Tix for Vegas. It was a ticket concierge. Right, and it allowed you to book tickets, and this was through a robot form. But in that industry right now, as an example, one of our customers is Wyndham Hotels, and in August we're launching an AI travel agent. And just to give you an idea, Wyndham has 3,000 call agents right now, and they spend about $100 million on that a year. And we are basically getting ready to replace, not all of them at the same time, and the savings will be $70 million, 70%. It'll go down from $100 million to $30 million. And for a public company that makes $200 million, $70 million more to your bottom line is very interesting. So, but what it really does is, going back to the creatives, is you lose one opportunity, another opportunity will present itself. Like when the calculator was created, everybody was going like, oh my God, everybody's going to cheat on tests and everything. And now calculators are integrated into the curriculum. In fact, you have to buy a scientific calculator in college, right? And so you'll adapt and there'll be new opportunities. And so going back to the creative and that example of the creative is, we believe that by being able to register and track your identity and now license it, the premise is that now you can make money while you sleep because your AI twin could be out there making money for you in new opportunities that you didn't even think of, right? And so, one door closes and one door opens, and the people that are going to get ahead of that wave are going to be the winners, right? And that's why, like, for example, you go to ChatGPT, everybody can go to ChatGPT and enter in the prompt. Like in Google, we used to call it using the box, and 99% will just use the box. And there will be that 1% that understands how to use Google, uses the advanced search, uses Boolean searches, and etc., and they'll be able to get a lot more out of Google. But 99% of people won't do that. ChatGPT is the same thing. Most people would just enter into the box. But if you're an expert at prompting, right, or even multi-prompting and understanding how that flows, right, a prompt engineer right now is making, I think, $300,000, right? And so there's a new demand for this new type of engineer that's a prompt engineer. This will be the same with coding. It's like coding will need to be supervised, right? And there will be architecture and frameworks. And vibe coding right now, I would say, is the equivalent of a very junior coder, right? And you can have a lot of junior coders, but they won't know how it all comes together, right? And so you still need that supervisory role and that creative role of what are we building? What are we creating? And I think that's where it's going.
So Marian, you're a developer, you're a builder, and I'd like to kind of question this a little bit, right? Because the exponential curve of all of this is really interesting. Syed gave us a great example how Microsoft is laying off all these employees. It'd be great to get detail on who those are. But programmers, I work with a lot of programmers, particularly a lot of student programmers, and I just feel sorry for them because it's like they're just not aware of world that's coming. Sam Altman said earlier this year that ChatGPT 4 was they have an internal version that is the 50th top best competitive programmer, and that by the end of this year they anticipate they will be number one. So Rex's point that yes, that these agents need supervision, is that really real though, and for how long? How long will they actually need supervision when you get agents that become the best programmers and that are available at scale this year on trajectory by the end of this year? Is programming by humans dead on one hand, or is it that everyone's a programmer now because the language of programming is effectively just English and that everyone can write code? So is there a new abundance that comes from this, or is it dystopic?
It's a great question. And it's Marlon, by the way. But, I think the term white collar is the proper term, because anything that it's an administrative task, repetitive. I mean, those are the most obvious sort of areas to disrupt with the agentic era that we're in. In regards to coding, and I actually just started testing a few coding agents, like Claude Code just came out maybe a week or so ago. GitHub had Copilot for a while, and there are a few sort of coding agents, and it's like customer service. I think coding was one of the first areas that a lot of these manufacturers, these developers of LLMs tried to address, but it's not quite there yet. Now, from my personal experience, our job consists of literally sitting down, reviewing software requirements, business requirements, translating that into code, and unit testing, making sure everything works as designed, rinse and repeat all over again, right? So there's a bug, you got to sort of like rinse and repeat and go through the whole cycle again. That's sort of like a monotonous task. It's something that AI can do quite effectively. So with however, to Rex's point, I do think that the models today are very basic. They could save roughly 30 to 40% of your time in terms of the mundane data entry aspect of coding. but the review, the logic, tying everything into a bigger picture and how it interacts, knowing how it interacts with other information systems, because coding doesn't stand on its own. I mean, it's dependent on external systems as well, that these models just can't really grasp how it all fits together. But it is a great experiment that I think is going to continue to get better over time. And again, to both of my co-panelists' point here, we just have to adapt to what's here. Again, just like we have before, we're going into a society where it was people versus people, like a PvP kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But in the future, it's people with agents. Yeah. That's who we're going to be competing.
It's like they say you won't lose your job to an agent, but you'll probably lose it to someone who's using an AI or using an agent.
I think that's a bullshit quote by Mark Cuban, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be a...
They got the perfect mic drop.
I hear you. I do want to ask one last question and very quick answers from everyone around the floor. I'd be remiss. I got my orange glasses on because it's BTC and I'm becoming more of a maxi the more time I spend in crypto, a Bitcoin maxi. But I have to say, the elephant in the room at BTC 2025 was the elephant that was missing from the room, which you go to any crypto conference, you'd see it's all been AI. And yet it hasn't been here at BTC. Why is that? What do you think about that? Very quickly, because I know we're running out of time, in terms of, do you think 2026, we're going to see a much bigger explosion of AI on the scene here in BTC Vegas? Or do you think that we are still going to have this split? It's just all going to be an EVM world.
So, yeah, BTC, if you look at the way that the BTC space has adopted technology, I mean, it's completely slow. It's no difference. AI will eventually make its way into the BTC community, but it's going to be, they're always the laggard.
So not 2026.
2028, maybe.
Okay.
So I can make a general comment on where BTC, BTC Vegas and where overall AI and the impact is going to be. Every single day, the kinds of shifts that we're seeing, we're witnessing an acceleration. We just don't realize it because we're in the spaceship. But anyone from the outside looking in, the reality is we're witnessing that acceleration, and that's happening not on a daily basis, it's happening on an hourly basis.
And I think that in a few years, you won't even ask, is it an AI company or is it not AI company? AI is just going to be everywhere, and it's going to be ingrained. And so really, it's not a question of when is it going to take over? It's already here. Just it's a matter of, are you saying it's AI or not? Because everybody's using it, everybody's incorporating it. It's just a natural part of it, right? And that's what.
All right, there you have it. Thank you, everyone.
Innovate, bringing assets to the digital state. From finance to games, we're redefining, connecting the dots. The future is shining.